Okay, so I've been a little MIA because I've been quietly watching from the shadows doing some research, and I'm finally ready to share some of my findings with you guys. So we have a lot to go over today. We're first going to go over some of the mysterious details I uncovered of the suspicious death that occurred on the set of Deadpool 2. We are then going to go over some of the idiotic comments made by Nick Viall on his podcast, where he called all of us trolls and embarrassments who are interested in this case and may not be on the same side as him. I also discovered some interesting information about the plantation that Lively and Reynolds got married on. Yes, they got married on a plantation, if you didn't know. And we also have a resurgence from Colleen Hoover, who has been posting some very interesting updates on her Facebook profile. And lastly, we have the final revenge of Leslie Sloan, who is Blake Lively's publicist, has now very much stabbed her in the back, likely to be her soon ex-publicist. And we have a lot to go over, so strap in because it's going to be another long night. So let's start with the thing that's been bothering me the most, which is the complete and utter tragedy that occurred on the set of Deadpool 2 on September 24th, 2019. Someone by the name of Joy Harris, I believe her name was driving a motorcycle, and on the very first live take that they did, lost control, flew into a building. The motorcycle went flying into the crowd, almost killing further people. And it was just a complete avoidable tragedy that was very much buried that I don't think a lot of people are aware happened. So I got an anonymous tip that I have absolutely no way of verifying, and I am in no way suggesting that this is true because I have not verified if this is true. But someone told me that Ryan Reynolds actually was on set when this occurred, and he was the one that pressured this individual to perform the stunt because of certain reasons that I'm not going to get into because, again, I want to verify everything. I will note that when I got my hands on the original investigative report that the government did, it's called Workplace BC because this occurred in Vancouver, British Columbia. We do have a list of people who were mentioned in the report who seem to be witnesses to the horrible tragedy that occurred. And one of the people was an executive producer whose name is redacted. It's very possible that that's Ryan Reynolds. There were two other executive producers. But the thing that I find very interesting is Deadpool 2 was the very first time that Ryan Reynolds ever achieved a PGA credit, okay? This is the same thing that everyone's been talking about, that the reason why Blake Lively was so intent on taking over the production, the marketing, the costume design, the composition of the music. These were all boxes that she had to check in order to get this accreditation that's very sought after in Hollywood. It's beyond just a vanity producer credit. It's an actual designation that if a film were to win Best Picture at the Oscars, you are the one that would receive an Oscar. So it's very sought after. And this was the first time that he received it. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think he was very involved on the set of Deadpool 2. And in reading this, the woman wasn't wearing a helmet. So the control freak Ryan Reynolds, who is now making fun of the set of It Ends With Us, like, oh, it's a bunch of monkeys running around not knowing what they're doing. I mean, how many people died on the set of It Ends With Us? And you couldn't have just told her to wear a helmet. Had this person been wearing a helmet and they just CGI'd it out, which would have been so easy, she would have been alive today. They were only fined $290,000, which is nothing. And it just sort of quietly went away. So I assume that they did settle with the family. And if anyone has information on this, please share it with me because I'm ongoingly investigating it. And I would like to note, in reading the findings section of this incident report, WorkSafe BC found that it was 100% the fault of 20th Century Fox for failing this person. This woman was the first African American woman to ever be licensed to road race motorcycles, but she was not a professional stunt woman. She had never driven a 900cc motorcycle, which you can see pictured here. She had only driven 200cc motorcycles, and it was completely on 20th Century Fox, who should have trained her properly, and for the love of God, should have made her wear a helmet, but they wanted her to wear a wig, so she matched the character. Utter BS. Disgusting that this happened, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. So now let's take a look at what Nick Viall had to say on his podcast this past week.
So the day this finally goes to court. I'm just looking for that day where I can tell all of you, I told you so. There's going to be a lot of people who really embarrass themselves. Whitney Cumming comes to mind most importantly, but
Oops, it looks like Nick Viall just accidentally exposed something that we all already knew, which is none of his opinions are substantiated by any real information or facts. Otherwise, he likely would have seen this article that states Whitney Cummings rips Justin Baldoni in scathing TikTok comic clearly in Blake Lively's corner. So if you're going to insult somebody publicly, get your facts straight. But it seems consistent with his brand of cheap reality TV feminism that in order to defend one woman, he has to tear down another. Which to me actually ironically explains why Nick Viall did clash with Justin Baldoni when he was a guest on his podcast. Because I watched the entire thing, and every time Justin Baldoni would say something very profound and thoughtful about masculinity and femininity and life and vulnerability, Nick Viall would respond with the most superficial, shallow understanding of his own experience. For example,
when I think about my privileges in my life, I think being tall and considered by average society standards as attractive has been super beneficial to me.
In other news, I ended up calling the plantation that Blake Lively got married on to see if I could uncover more information, and what I found was very interesting. So I posed as a wedding planner for a client and inquired about if the atmosphere feels appropriate for a wedding, because again, it was a former plantation. The person said, "As far as the history, we are definitely a historic plantation and museum first and foremost. An event venue is more of a secondary objective. Our prime reason for existing is to educate people on the past, and I will say that objective is certainly clear for visitors. So I would say to prepare for a big presence of historical information. I always want to be completely transparent on that and don't want to sugarcoat anything. So in case there was any lingering doubt about maybe they didn't know it was a former plantation, maybe they're in a separate part of there was none of that. They very much knew, and do with that information as you will." Next up, nobody's favorite author, Colleen Hoover, has actually resurfaced on Facebook to announce something that I actually found shocking. So she has announced that she is not working on one, not two, but 3 new movies are coming out that are being adapted from her books. So she's currently working on Regretting You, which is filming now by Paramount and Constantine, whatever that is. She's filming another movie called Reminders of Him, which is the first film under her production company called Heartbones Entertainment, and it's also, I guess, connected with Universal Pictures. She wrote the script and is heavily involved. And then she's also working on the 3rd film, which is Verity, which is going to be an Amazon production. So she also announced that she's doing a cameo on that movie. So she's trying to become like Stan Lee by appearing. And she said that she's really excited because she's doing a morbid scene with lots of blood. So that was an interesting detail to include. And she says she is staying busy and focusing on being happy, and also included the fact, really just slipped in randomly, that she was only on set of It Ends With Us for 4 days. So thank you for including that, Colleen, and that's just further reason why you shouldn't be giving your opinion when you weren't even there. We also have a major update that flew under the radar, which is Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, has completely stabbed her in the back by filing her own lawsuit where she has thrown Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds under the bus, because her defense is 2 things. Number 1, she is saying that it was Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, not me, and I should not be held accountable for what they said. If you think I'm lying, this is a direct quote. Miss Sloan cannot be held liable for defamation for statements made by Miss Lively or Ryan Reynolds. In other words, they did it, not me, judge. So Leslie Sloan's second defense is actually even weaker than her first, which is basically that sexual assault and sexual harassment mean the same thing. So rewind, the reason why she's involved in this mess is because she had said in an article that Blake Lively was sexually assaulted. And she is now backtracking in her lawsuit saying, the term sexual assault is insufficiently precise and means different things to different people. No, Leslie, assault and harassment mean very different things to everybody who understands the English language, and the implications are very different as well. And that is why you're involved in a defamation lawsuit, because that is not true. Nobody was assaulted. Blake Lively's legal team are also now desperately attempting to get a very broad protective order that would hide all the information found in discovery from not only us, the public, but also from the parties themselves, aka even Justin Baldoni wouldn't be able to see it. They also very immaturely weaponized a private conversation between the lawyers where it seems like a joke was made about them uncovering a mistress or psychiatrist and purposely included that. So we would see it in an attempt to embarrass Justin Baldoni, but I think the only thing that they're actually going to accomplish is embarrassing themselves, not only in front of us, but in front of the judge who is going to see through these PR tactics. One of Baldoni's lawyers named Mitchell Schuster then threw the SNL skit back in their face as using it as an example as to why they should not get the protective order because they're appearing in front of 15 million people on SNL, so the privacy ship has sailed. I truly believe that at this point, the only way out for Blake Lively is to release a statement that I took the liberty of drafting for her. You can go ahead and use this the same way that you drafted one for Justin Baldoni. I did the same for you. You're welcome. Just today, Blake Lively has also added a new lawyer to her legal team, someone named Matthew Bruno. He looks a little bit younger. Hopefully he can help save their sinking ship before he jumps off of it, because let's be honest, that's what I would do if I had to work for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Also, they added Justin Baldoni's voice memo to the Better Sleep app, and Blake Lively likes to objectify men.